stars were aligning, the timing was right for him to test himself in a different way as well, which he wants to do. He's hugely ambitious and driven, so I think he wants to test to see if he could do it in this period of time as well.
It's Rog, and I'm joined by a truly great American. Actually, a Welshman who has, no hyperbole, done something no one's ever done in the history of the United States as a footballing nation. He's gone out and led the recruitment of not one, but two world-class elite coaches to lead our men's and women's national team. First, the quite incredible Emma Hayes, who took just 72 days from first coaching session to winning Olympic gold with our US women. And now Mauricio Pochettino, who will debut in the dugout of the US men, wearing the United States patch across his Argentinian pectoral on Saturday. It is happening, people. And let me calm myself really by saying there's nothing in football that is guaranteed. But with the Men's World Cup just 612 days away as we sit here, who's counting? I really, really think that it is critical after several years of hope and buffeted hope that we take a beat to feel a sense of this moment. It's remarkable times that we're living in, and to celebrate it, to mark it, to deepen our appreciation of it really, I wanted to hear the inside story by inviting on the US Soccer Technical Director who oversaw the process, not just once, but twice, putting in his thumb and pulling out two plums, a gent who began in football as an academy manager in his hometown club of Cardiff City, then went off to head the famed Southampton Academy, became head of development teams at England with the national team, and then Southampton again, this time as head of football operations before taking on this US soccer role and changing really the landscape of football, the ambition, what we all thought was possible in the process, giving our nation the greatest possible gift. Gifts plural. Welcome back. Oh, Mr. Matt Crocker.
Thanks, Roger. Great introduction as always. I appreciate it.
Can I just say, quite good work, Matt.
Thank you. Wasn't easy, and like I said to you before, you never want to change your coaches. But clearly we'd had a disappointing World Cup on the women's side, and a disappointing summer in Copa America. So change was needed, and felt really backed and supported by the federation in going and being able to get Emma and Mauricio.
Emma and Mauricio, that is some double act. But I want to start before we do dive in. Really by thanking you, because what you have done, I said this in the introduction, it's pretty bloody momentous. We American football fans, you know us now, Matt, we're not always the most optimistic. Sometimes, let's just say we're harsher than we perhaps need to be. But in our footballing hour of need, you've overseen processes that have led to deals signed with two superlative leaders, two superlative human beings. And in this country, we love fried foods, we love winning, and we love elite coaches in that order. So, Matt, let me just start off before we dive in, because I do want to deepen my understanding, our listeners' understanding of how this overhaul happened. But thank you from the bottom of my red, white, and blue heart.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Are you ready to dive in?
I certainly am.
Does it feel like this process began long ago, Matt? I think the first game under Pochettino will be this Saturday, October 12th, 3 p.m. Eastern against Panama in Austin's Q2 Stadium. But it began back July 10th, 2024, when Greg Berhalter was let go. Does that feel, when I say that date, July 10th, 2024, and you think about everything that's happened between now and then, does it feel like yesterday, or does it feel like it was years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think moments like that are always edged in your memory, really. And obviously, it was a really difficult time. And like I mentioned, Greg did great work for the federation, over many, many years, and was a good partner to work with, a really good partner. But like I say, we didn't get the results. So yeah, it was a difficult conversation to originally have to have with Greg. And I cared about people, and those moments are always difficult, and they. It always sticks with you, those types of moments. But what it did give us on the flip side was a was a huge opportunity to shape some of the changes, and in particular the opportunity of bringing in a top coach like Mauricio. So it's not easy to say like one door closes and then you've got to focus on the next step, but that's just the nature of the game, and that's how the sport works, and that's how professional sport at the highest level. You've got to move on quickly, and but hopefully I did it with as much empathy as I possibly could, because the way you treat people I think is really important.
Take us back to the beginning of the Poch hire, July 10th, 2024. Greg Berhalter was let go. Take us to day one in the Crocker office. What are the immediate first steps you take on day one, the first calls you make?
Look, Greg would have been aware of this, same as Emma is, that, we have a continuous evolving list of coaches in the background that could at any stage be recruited in, because sometimes that's outside your control. So, Emma goes and does an amazing job, and, something might happen in, for example, the women's or the men's game that is attractive to her, and, a once in a lifetime opportunity might crop up, the same as if she underperforms. And, we all understand the industry that we're in, that, the other way the decision is made then is the same. So, you've always got to have this evolving list of coaches that, you could be ready to move or ready to begin a process like we needed to at any moment in time. So your first port of call is to review that list, and then begin to work through how you go about getting in touch with these coaches, whether that's directly, if you know them, whether that's through agents, how you build those ones that you don't know and how you get the details. And pretty much started from there, instantly and straight away.
God, I know Emma quite well, and I like to believe the only job she'd leave the US women's national team for would be to try and lead the US men's national team if they ever needed her. So I don't want you to dissuade me of that belief. But before you put the full list of targets together, I believe you put a data set together to define the kind of coaches you wanted, right? Your dream target list. Can you talk about the qualities for the US men's national team that data set suggested to you, and how big is the initial net? Is it like 10 to 15 candidates, and how do you put that one together?
Yeah, so coming off the back of a disappointing summer, the opportunity to make the changes, I think some of the things that we were specifically looking at data sets for is a coach with a reputation or a serial winning coach. So a coach that has been in a number of environments, whether they be as a national team coach or as a club coach or both, and has got a significant win record in those environments, and actually over a period of time has improved the performance of the teams that they've worked with or the countries that they've worked with. So that became a key metric that we really wanted to focus on. We have a style of play currently, or we have a certain player pool that is young and dynamic and front-footed, and we wanted to have a coach that could continue or could deliver a high energy team. That's what I think our fans want to see us, being front-footed, aggressive in defense, and pressing high, and also creative and exciting in attack. And we want to be able to use the speed of the team. So there was a number of stylistic measures that you can look through data sets that give you an idea and an indication of how that coach thinks about the game and how they set their teams out and the tactical styles of those teams. And then sort of finally, just to sort of finish off that set, is you then look at, okay, the players that we've got, the systems that we've played, the systems that they fit, is the systems that those coaches play aligned to the direction. And, based off of those, and originally we pulled out a list of the 100 top ones, and then we just worked through, started at the top and, and sort of worked through. And, originally that list is 100, but we aimed at the top. And, what I realized pretty quickly in the search is the interest was significant, and every coach that we spoke to from top of that list was seriously interested and wanted to know more about the role. So from that perspective, it just felt like a different search, and I say it just respectfully, it felt like a different search to when I originally took the role 14 months earlier.
So when you say you put a list of the top 100 together, Matt, do you mean, are you looking at the coaches who've won the most points over the last period? And then you're kind of passing them through a sieve of whose style matches our style, whose tactics match our tactics,
Yeah.
who understands the American throw caution to the wind, bold attacking football. Is that kind of how you develop your initial target list of like 12, 15 human beings?
Yeah, pretty. And then you just dive in and a lot of those, I was fortunate enough to know, several of those on the list. Or if I didn't, I was fortunate enough to know somebody that knew somebody, and, we were just direct into contact, really. So, that's how it tends to work.
I want to pick up on the process, but just pause that for 1 second, because you just said something amazing. Big picture, this time around, the interest level in the job, the people who are returning your calls, the agents, the managers who are agreeing to meetings, night and day, with how it was in that period after the World Cup that led to Greg's rehiring. How did you understand that? Was it that the World Cup was just 2 years away? We were further along in the cycle?
There's a couple of significant factors. I think, first of all, sometimes it's just about timing and availability of certain coaches who might even be exiting role or close to exiting roles, and availability of those coaches is one thing. But, I do think some of the things that have happened in the last 12 months are significant. So, of course, the World Cup is 12 months closer, and, being 2 years away is an exciting period to be able to implement the changes needed to affect the team and go in. So it's not too far away that it feels like a significant journey for a coach, but it's close enough to maybe get a coach to go, wow, this feels exciting, a project to take, only being 2 years out. So that was one thing. I do think like a significant one was Emma's hire. So I think that was a stake in the ground of, we can go and get the best. And having, being able to attract Emma, get that deal over the line, I think it put a real stake in the ground for us to go, wow, they're serious about their future direction,
Man, that's amazing. Emma Hayes signing with us on the US Women's National Team. Was it a signal to ourselves that yes, we can indeed go out into the wider global world of football and make our case to the best coaches available? Or was it a signal to the best coaches available that they're like, oh, they've got Emma Hayes on the women's side, that's my level on the men's side, let me take that meeting?
Yeah, I think that's how it started out. And then, in additionally to that, how serious the organisation, record level of investment under Cindy, and, we're building a national training centre.
Cindy Cohn, the president.
Yeah. And I think there's like a number of, I don't think there's any one silver bullet, but I think there's 3 or 4 significant moments that have occurred over the last 12 months that have raised the level of expectation and the level of coach that we could potentially go out and secure, or get interest in.
So when did Poch enter the chat, Matt? And I know you both overlapped at Southampton in 2013. He was manager. You were leading the youth academy at the time. But I believe you said that you had to get his number before WhatsApping him. Have you changed numbers? He's had a few moves since then. Or were you on block?
No, I mean, I think, our paths had gone in different directions. We hadn't spoken for a number of years, and he's changed a few phones. I changed a few phones, and before you know it, somehow we've lost numbers. But a good friend of both of ours, I just reached out and went, I'd really like to speak to Mauricio, and can you let him know that I'm keen to speak to him. So I actually got a message from Mauricio saying, let's have a call. So
use the burner phone.
Yeah, something like that. So, I got on the bat phone and called him back straight away. And, we had probably a 10, 15 minute catch-up conversations on how crazy the world of, football is, and how we've gone in different directions, and who would have thought what had happened in the last 10 years to him, to me, etc. And, and we did that. The family thing obviously is always important. He's a, huge family man, and it was, great to catch up, see how his boys are doing. And he asked obviously about my boys. And then it was just like, look, Mauricio, we've got this project. I'm really keen to speak to you about it. Can we come out and meet you, myself and JT? And
JT Batson, the CEO of US Soccer.
Yeah.
So when you get off that call, Matt, do you hang up and you're like, well, I mean, you're like, there's something there. Or are you like, enough about football to have no emotions and just be dead inside?
I think you're dead inside, because I'm a person that is an emotional person. But 27 plus years in the professional game, you realize that nothing's ever straightforward, nothing's ever done till it's done, and it was a very, very early days. So it was, of course I was excited, thinking, but we also had numerous other conversations that had either already happened or were being lined up for. So it was, was one of many conversations that you wanted to have, but it was exciting to know that, again, that level of class of coach was interested in a meeting.
And he was one of many in that moment. I like to believe there was like a map in US soccer, the bowels of the office just pinging all over the world, coaches' interest, different level, like a war room. But you and JT Batson then flew to Barcelona to meet Pochettino, where he was based.
Yeah.
We know details of it. We know a 2-hour meeting turned into 5 hours. You talked with great texture about what this role would look like. And he in turn pitched you right back with his coaching partner, the great character, Jesus Perez. They unfurled a PowerPoint, right, of exactly how they saw the US roster. Can you take us into this meeting? What happened? What did he present to you? And emotionally, just the changing tectonic plates of your thinking as that meeting progressed.
Yeah, I mean, we said to Mauricio and Jesus before the meeting, like, we're really keen to present to you what the project is. So, it was a warts and all analysis of the squad, the depth, the challenges that we'd incurred over the last 12 months, some of the successes, some of the things that we felt had improved in the team, and like I mentioned, some of the difficulties in terms of, if we were going to move forward with this team, what it needed. So again, it was a really good conversation. Lots of questions both ways. So straight away you're thinking, yeah, this, there's a deep level of question and understanding here that they're really interested. And then Sus and Mauricio, laptops open, and was really interested. So they started to talk again about the player pool. Some great questions over the current setup, things that they were already thinking about and shaping forward that had come out of some of the presentation that we presented. So one thing I will say is it felt like not only was there a good level of engagement, but there was a good level of alignment in terms of where we all felt the team was and what they might need going forward. So they'd clearly done a lot of research analysis. So it wasn't just them turning up with their arms folded going, just tell us stuff. They'd done their homework, that's for sure.
Was there a detail that they showed you in this PowerPoint where you were suddenly like, wow, maybe this is more than just a work expenses trip to Barcelona? There could be something here. Give us a taste of what was in the Poch initial analysis scan.
Yeah, so it wasn't just necessarily the current playing squad. It was future high potential players that they'd already earmarked that were either in the system or potential dual nationals that they would want to target to bring in. Very interested in the games program between now and 2026. Very, very interested in how they would build strong, robust, meaningful relationships with players and how they would support those players in their own club environment and how they would cover the monitoring and the tracking and the support of those players. So yeah, it was detailed for a first interaction. That was for sure.
When you left with JT 5 hours on, what did it feel like? Because I know you're not getting ahead of yourself. I know you're not high-fiving, but were you both like, there's something here? And in that moment, what does that feel like, Matt?
The one thing I will say is it was a ridiculous high benchmark to come away from a first meeting. So you look and go like, if that's the level, then we're in a really, really strong spot. But that said, oh my God, the deal is, the deal was always going to be so complex and so difficult to get over the line. So you almost don't want to get ahead of yourself. You can't help it. You go in like, this has been great. And if we can pull this off, you start to think about those things. But you're also really, really aware that there's so many hurdles that you need to overcome to even start to think about this. And by the way, we've already got, we've got a number of other high quality candidates that we were in the process as well with. So, being respectful that, you've got a great benchmark to go to build from. And if you get someone better than what you've seen, then that's outstanding,
So you leave this meeting, but Poch is still, I imagine, within that secondary pool of 5 or 6 strong candidates. Can I ask you, was there an American option or American options in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were, in that initial list that I mentioned, that sort of initial, low double figures list. There was American coaches, on that list for sure. But again, it's not just about the data set, but it's about timing. It's about initial conversations, and you get a feel and you go from there, really. So you're trying to get that initial list then down to a manageable 6, and then the 6 down to 3, and then go from there. So you're always trying to go through different elements of the process and trying to be in a position where you can funnel things.
Is it possible, or is it hard data-wise, to compare wins in MLS with wins in European competition? Is it apples to oranges?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends. You're never just comparing one environment. You're looking at the coach's history. So, data these days, you can easily go back 10, 12 years of a coach's journey. So you're not just looking at their current club and current status. You're looking at their record previously to that as well.
In that 5 or 6 candidates, there were American options in that.
In the 12, but then as we shrunk and we started to see who was available and who wasn't, we sort of worked from there as we whittled things down.
Gareth Southgate, you knew from your 7 years as a head of youth teams in the England setup. Did you speak to Gareth, Matt?
I'm not telling you who I spoke with. I mean, all I will say is, I've known Gareth for a long time, a phenomenal head coach, great leader, somebody that has, turned England around really, and has played such a significant, important part of their journey over the last 6 or 7 years. Was hugely passionate about his job, and but he was coming off the back of a really long stint as an international head coach, and I know Gareth really well. Gareth will want to reflect and improve himself. He'll want to take some time to decompress from what's happened, and also he'll want to put some of his significant learnings into play. And I speak to Gareth on a regular basis, same as I speak to other coaches, and he's an outstanding individual and a human, but also a great coach, has done a great job with England as well.
Godspeed to Gareth Southgate. But back to Poch. How are you processing this from his view? I mean, he is let's say he's an atypical international manager candidate, or he was before he chose to ride reverse. Typically, international managers are either not getting elite club offers or older managers who no longer want the crucible of pressure of club football. The golf game doesn't work on itself kind of thing. But this American job with the American World Cup, I've said from the beginning, it is a special job. It is a massive job. It is unique. But how did you understand why, from Poch's perspective, a gent with no American connection of real meaning, why he was taking this opportunity so seriously? Yeah, I mean, I think one, he spoke, from the beginning about the player pool, and he used the word potential a lot. It's a group with a lot of potential, and I think he's seen the potential in the playing pool. He's seen the potential in the country, and I think he wants to turn that potential into performance, which is, he wants to mold and put his own mark and his own stamp on it. And as we both know, his reputation in the game is top, in high standing. He's the type of coach that provides unbelievable support and care to players, but will also set ridiculously high standards of them in all environments, and will call out underperformance, that's for sure. So I think I think that, like I mentioned, the potential of the group he saw, but I think he saw the opportunity to really get in there and improve things, in a period of time, and clearly he felt like as if the 2-year period gave him enough opportunities and enough touch points to be able to do that. I mean, it's amazing when you look at managers who brought on, but you just look at the England national team, a gent who helped mould players like Harry Kane, Dele Alli, Luke Shaw, James Ward-Prowse, turn them all into England internationals. I'm sure that was deeply attractive. But what you just said is really striking. Was it that you were looking for a manager who could demand from this squad and inject a tone, a message, a culture of responsibility and accountability? Yeah, I mean, I think, and again, this is no disrespect to the past and how it's been. It just felt like this was a moment in time for this group to receive something different. And if you're going to bring something different in from a coach who has worked at the highest level, has won at the highest level, who has developed the young players that you've just mentioned to be, arguably some of the, top players in the world, but has also worked with those players who are and have been the top players in the world for long periods of time, and has, added value to their careers as well. I mean, it's like, it's
a huge opportunity for us and obviously for him as well.
The one caveat when you look at Pochettino's LinkedIn is that international football is different to club management. The club manager builds a culture, trains players, has games often twice a week for months. Can he translate that into the international arena where you may not see your players for months on end, and they may not even be playing for their clubs in that spell? Not all qualities translate. Was that something that gave you pause? How did you process it?
Yeah, I mean, we had this again in that first meeting. We had discussions over, well, look, you're not coaching every day here. You might go 3 months without being able to get your coaching fix. So if you are a coach that thrives off being on the grass and smelling the grass every day, this is not for you, really. But you need to get your fixes from other things, whether that's becoming an outstanding detailed planner ready for the next camp, whether it's supporting a player that might be having a dip, or spending time with a 20s coach around developing the next couple of the next players who are coming through. And I just felt like the timing was right for him he'd done a lot of the club stuff, the day-to-day stuff, which arguably is great. But I just felt like as if he was and his coaching staff had talked about the opportunity of doing or becoming international or considering the international market as a head coach and as a staff. So it just felt like stars were aligning. The timing was right for him to test himself in a different way as well. So which he wants to do. He's hugely ambitious and driven. So I think he wants to test to see if he could do it in this period of time as well,
Matt, I don't need to tell you this, but it took 27 days from word getting out that Pochettino had agreed to the job to US Soccer being able to officially announce that the deal was completed. It was a complex deal. You've already said that. You had to extricate Poch from his Chelsea contract. The Manchester United job rumours continued to echo the whole time. Behind the scenes, were you chill, Matt Crocker, the whole way?
No.
Just calm as you like, or were there nerves?
No. Never done until the ink signed on the contract. And every day that goes by, you have to be honest with these things. Obviously, every day that goes by, I think it becomes more and more difficult to get over the line because, like you mentioned, other jobs crop up in another environment that might tempt him or other top coaches. That's always in the back of your head. The other thing that's in the back of your head is you're not in control of this. This is not just down to a financial negotiation between, you and a coach. There's a third party involved in this, that has a significant impact of whether this happens or doesn't happen.
Chelsea Football Club in this case.
Yeah. And what I will say is, the communications that I had with Paul Winstanley, the sporting director at Chelsea, he was excellent, at making sure that, this was dealt with in a timely, orderly way, but it was really complex. There was a lot of different things that needed to align before we could make this happen. So that's why it took a long time. It just wasn't easy at all. In an ideal world, we would have loved, Mauricio to have been in the September window, which was the original intention, to come in, observe and see, and then take over from the October. So you build plans, but you've always got to have contingencies because you just never know. And, I was also really keen, and again, to be honest and transparent, we had another top candidate who I was totally honest with and, said, look, we've found the route of Coach A, but, it's complex and it's difficult. We would love for you to still be considered for the role, and because this is not done, this is far from done. So, I think if you're honest with people and respectful and do things in the right way and communicate, then, they can either say, thanks very much for all the information, but no thanks. But in this occasion, they were respectful to go, yeah, I understand and we want to remain in the process. So, yeah, it was complex up until the end, but, I was never calm through it all. I was every day reaching out to whoever I needed to, Chelsea, Mauricio, JT, what we doing? Are we pushing things forward? I get to a stage where it was a long time.
That plan B, I've asked you many times, who was it? You've told me to your dying day, you will not let the world know, which I do understand. But just give us a little clue, Matt. Just cryptic clue.
A little clue. The only clue I'll give you is they're a top top coach.
God, why is Bruce Arena the only mental picture I'm getting right now? By the way, talking about top coaches, Emma Hayes, I know, was texting Poch throughout the process. She even checked in, which is incredible, midway through the Olympics. Emma Hayes is a great American. She's also a lifelong Spurs fan, season ticket holder there. Was obviously quite fortuitously Chelsea manager alongside Poch during his season at Stamford Bridge. Can you talk about Emma's role in this coup?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's individuals within US Soccer in sort of the leadership team that we work and confine with, trust with these decisions that we're making before we make them. And I think it's always important that you especially with people like Emma's experience, somebody I totally trust. And we had conversations over, Maurizio and other coaches. And, when I mentioned Maurizio, she would lean in, and I could sense that, they'd worked together at Chelsea. They both hold each other in real high regard, and just started to build this mental picture in my head of, can you imagine in our senior teams, Maurizio and Emma, and the dynamic between those two would be electric, and how they would bounce ideas off each other and share great practice and challenge each other. And, you started to think about that. But, Emma was great because, she was in regular contact with Maurizio because they're friends and colleagues from a previous employer, and they respected each other. So, and I'm sure that Maurizio was, getting a sense check of what US Soccer is like from Emma's perspective, how she found the job, what's it like working with me, all of those things. Emma was constantly in the Olympics. I remember, I can't even remember which game it was, but I think she was getting off a bus or something after the game, and, she was quiet around. She looked at me, she went, "Where are we with Poch?" And it's like, just focus on the semi-final or whatever it might be, but she's, she's like you mentioned it, not just a great coach, a great human being, has got high standards and wants the best for US Soccer. She wants to leave a legacy here, and as you can see already, she's doing that.
God, what a duo. I mean, it's Kirk and Spot levels. It's like Jules and Vincent levels. But when you get that text that everything had been signed, the contracts, the ink was dry, where are you? How do you find out? How do you feel? How do you celebrate?
Where am I? I'm on men's camp, so we're in the it's a September window. I'm in the hotel, and I get that final message to say everything is done and dusted, which is an unbelievable. I just use the word relief. It's like,
enormous relief.
Yeah, because I don't enjoy the moments. It's like whether we win or lose or draw. I can never sit in the stand and enjoy the game. It's just relief if you win, and if you lose, it's a terrible gut wrenching feeling. So yeah, unfortunately, it's like a slow, painful death I describe watching the game, or that you're so emotionally connected to, that has an impact on so many people and the organization and beyond the fans and everything. It's just relief. I just felt in that moment like relief, and thank goodness that we got it done before anything went wrong, because the thought of it not happening and us having to rewind a little bit, even though we had an outstanding coach, I didn't want to I wanted to go with our first choice, and I say that respectfully to the other coach in the process, but I wanted it to happen. I just felt the dynamic was great between Emma, or could be great between Emma and Maurizio.
By the way, do you have any sense, like, do you give yourself a second to be like, Emma and Mauricio, it's pretty bloody good what I've done? Or are you immediately like onto you? Do you have a sense of the accomplishment? Like, we've been here a long time. This has been a long journey. We've been at this since 1930. We don't talk enough about the semi-final in the World Cup. I wish we talked about it more. We should sing ballads of it. But this has been a long climb. There's been some moments of wonder. Thank you, Landon Donovan. There's been some trauma. By the way, on the men's and the women's side, there's been trauma of recent. And to have these two human beings, did you give yourself a second where you're like, bloody hell, good work, Matt Crocker? You're just not that human being.
No, and I think, look, it comes off the back of a poor period on the men's side. So, look, I don't, you always got to look yourself in the mirror with these situations, and I'm as part of that, that summer failure as anyone, more so, and I take that and I take that responsibility firmly on my shoulders. But it's great that we've got Mauricio over the line, but we've done nothing yet. All we've done is we've got ourselves a world-class coach, and there's so much to do in US soccer in terms of the youth landscape. Getting our national teams to a position where we've got a level of consistency and a player production line, both on the men's and the women's pathway, that supports what we're trying to do at the senior level. There's so much to do in coach education in this country. There's so much to do in the whole of the ecosystem to give every kid, on whatever part of the country they're from, whatever socioeconomic background, whatever colour their skin is, they get equal opportunity to play soccer and to be the best player or that they can possibly be. We're just scratching the surface. And my role is not just with the senior men's and senior women's team. We've got 27 national teams, including our 9 extended national teams, and a coach education system that's got to provide what great coaching should look like for every amazing kid that deserves to play soccer in this country. We've got just so much to do. And what excited me to come and do this role is that size and scale of the project, and the opportunity to change and to make soccer better in this country forever. And yes, we've made a great step by getting Emma and Mauricio, I think, are great role models who are going to do tremendous work in the future. But we're still just scratching the surface of what we need to do.
Amen, Matt Crocker. By the way, what has the process been like since the hiring was made official? We had the whirlwind of Poch takes Manhattan, in which we were lucky enough to spend time with him and hear his vision. We learned this week that Poch has not spoken to the players. I love this, but Anthony Robinson, whom he ran into in a restaurant. I hope it was Nando's. What have you been working on with Poch behind the scenes to get him ready?
We've gone through a significant period of change on the men's side. So, it's not all new staff. So we've got some existing staff in all the areas: performance, coaching, analysis, operations, team operations, that are existing staff who have done a great job over many years. So it's like new staff and existing staff, making sure that gels and making sure there's the opportunity to start to build some relationships, to start to build trust, and to start, for Mauricio to paint his vision of how he, sees things occurring to start with in this initial camp. So, I think we were 3 weeks out, and, it's literally all systems go. You've got to connect all the dots, people to meet each other, and then start to plan a camp, select a roster, et cetera. So, but in those moments, my job often is to get out of the way, because we've got great staff to do these things. And I just need to, at the beginning stages, my job is just to connect the people and make sure that we stick within the framework of structure of how we operate, and just allow the good people who are in those programs to do the best work. So, when you got coaches like Emma and Mauricio, as I mentioned, my job sometimes is just to get out of the way.
First Poch squad is Borazak Stefano too. It's very similar to the squads of recent past. What do you expect is going to be different, Matt?
Yeah, it's always difficult to say, because it's, often, the selection of players for any international team is primarily based on their club form. So, and that could change at any moment in time. So, we want to be able to be in a position going forward. And I know Mauricio will think this way, that players are playing at the highest level, playing well, achieving, huge amounts of minutes at the highest level they possibly can. And, I think Mauricio will be a coach, whether they're 18 years of age or 38 years of age. If you're playing well and you're doing well and you're achieving success at club level, there's opportunities for you here, that's for sure. So I don't think he definitely won't be afraid of either playing a young player or bringing a player back that hasn't featured for a while if they're doing well. I think it's, he is, every player will be on that starting line again. And, what's gone on in the past is the past, and this is about now the future. So, I think there'll be opportunities for all, really.
We interview a lot of US internationals on this show. We just had Anthony Robinson on. A lot of them have talked about this, but he was the last. And he's fascinating because he's obviously a Scouse American, but he talked about the existence of an American mentality amongst the players that he hopes the new manager will understand. Matt, you have a real insight into this coming from Europe. But you now know our culture so well. Does a difference exist between the American player and the English player? And if so, how would you articulate it?
I think probably what Anthony is getting at is that there's a brotherhood amongst this group of players. They've been together a long period of time. There's a strong culture that exists within the group. But what I will say is, Mauricio will come in and will support that culture, but he will also challenge it to be better. And I think there's this balance between respect and taking things forward and improving things. And I think we have, like I mentioned, with Mauricio, we've got a coach that has worked at the top level and understand what that looks and feels like, and will be demanding of that and the players and the staff and the program. That's for sure.
Let's shift focus for a moment to the other big hire, Emma Hayes, gold medal winning Emma Hayes. After last World Cup's disappointing round of 16 exit, the women's programme needed a new manager, a new inspiration, completely different energy really. And in came only the best manager in the world, just the 7 English championships and 5 FA Cups won with Chelsea. How many serious candidates were there for that one? Or did you just Google world's best women's football manager?
No, same process as the men's, 12 to 6 to 3 to the best one. And, I think, you don't have to repeat this process too many times because it means you're failing, that's for sure. But I felt like as if through the process that we went through with the women's hire, several months previously, I felt like we had a nice framework to be able to build from. But what I will say is you have to go into these interview processes, of course there's always unconscious bias, but you have to go in as open-minded as you possibly can. That's the reason why there's, I think with this process, there was, a number of individuals in the leadership positions who, were given responsibilities to give us feedback on the candidates. And, for me, though, the second that I spend any time in Emma's company from that first, stage of the interview, it was like, wow, not only as a coach and a level of detail and, the winning, but just what a human being, like, you just want to be around her. You want to, her enthusiasm is infectious. She's a real people person. She's the type of coach that loves you and like challenges you at the same time. And, you just feel her energy, and she's just so driven, and she's great to be around. And, but I also want to reference, the staff. Again, it was mergers and acquisitions. There was existing staff. I mentioned Twyla Kilgore, who led the team in a really transition period, whilst Emma, finished the season at Chelsea, and did a great job, along with, some other great US, soccer staff that were existing in the program. And then, 70, I can't even remember how you said, 70 days-ish.
72, but who's counting, Matt?
Yeah. They arrive, new staff, existing staff, and build that. And I also give huge credit to the players, because if you're not an adaptable performer, there was a lot of difference, a lot of things that Emma brought that she went, this is the way I'm going to do it for 70 days. I'm not gonna change from the way I worked previously. This is not the US soccer way. I'm going to come in, I'm going to impart how I feel this team needs to get to, and then we'll review what's worked after the Olympics, and we'll add bits to that. So it was Emma's way, So, but that work was started by Twyla and others in that program to start to embed some of those changes that we wanted to make in the program. But of course, Emma has a significant impact. But all the stars have got to align. The players have got to buy in. The existing staff have got to be prepared to take that forward in a positive way. And there's some real challenges when you do these things. But thank goodness it all worked and pulled together. And credit to everyone involved in that Olympic program, players and staff, because to make that happen was a real challenge.
I mean, Emma's different to Poch. I've spent time with her. Like me, she's someone that loves America, has that love for this nation at the heart of her own journey. But I will say, what she did with our US women at the Olympics was, to me, one of the most remarkable acts of transformational leadership I've seen in American football. Can you point into your own words, Matt, having watched this team go instantly, seemingly, from not winning to winning? The players have talked about what a breath of fresh air, how the entire kinetic energy around the squad transformed instantly. But I'm curious, from inside, from the football data terms, I guess, how do you understand it yourself, Matt Crocker? How did the women's national team shift under Emma Hayes?
sometimes there's things more than data. There's just you get like a I don't know, like your spidey senses, start to tingle. And when you see someone like Emma work, what you realize is the very, very, very best at the game know when to be serious and know when it's just got to be fun and light and funny. And she's just got this incredible level of emotional intelligence just to recognize what's needed when. Is, I think, her biggest strength in addition to all the other amazing stuff she does. But that for me is great leadership. And she's just got this ability to just recognize what the team needs, what the individuals need, when, and how she goes about delivering that. And sometimes she just bursts out laughing and the players are falling along the floor because she said something ridiculously funny. And this is match day -1 for the final or the semi-final, and you think, but it's just like, it's the authenticity of her. She's just totally authentic in herself. She doesn't try to be anybody that she's not. And I think that is an unbelievable quality in her as a human being and as a leader for our women's team.
There's no footballing data point for lols, is what you're telling me. But you are a data-driven man, Matt Crocker. We just won gold at the Olympics. What does the data tell you? Did we overachieve?
I'm actually not a data-driven guy. I just think that data should play a part in hugely financial investments in the program. I want to be able to, sit with our president and our CEO and our board, and them to feel confident that I followed a due diligence process and I've considered and unearthed every piece of information I can for us to try and make the right decision going forward. So if data is a part of that, then great. But also sometimes it's just your gut feel, and you've sometimes got to go with that as well. So of course, data is important, but I don't want it to come across like I'm some data geek sat in an office crunching numbers. That's just not me. I'm a people person, and I mentioned that's what Emma that shone through in abundance. And of course, we're only just beginning to look at the game metrics of what it's going to take to win the next Olympics or the next World Cup, because it's going to be different from the last one. And but what I do know from Emma is we will have a really robust strategic plan that will begin to measure that. But US Soccer's only just starting to build its data team now. We've just got Sam Gregory, who's only just been in with us now, coming up 6 months. So we're just building our own in-house data team, now for us to be able to do those things. We're not as advanced as we need to be. If we're going to be successful about creating senior national teams that can win and be challenged for podium finishes in these major tournaments in the future, it's going to take significant investment beyond what we've already done now. So I'm not sitting here going, oh great, we've got all the staff, we've won. It's like, the second that you win, I give you this scenario. I remember my CEO at Southampton, a guy called Martin Semmons, great guy, and staying in the Premier League for Southampton was always like a real challenge. You had the least budget in the league, and you had to really work and fight and sweat for every single point. And once you got to that 40-point mark, it was tremendous. And I remember being in the crowd, and we just, I think we were on 37 points. We just beaten, I can't remember who it was, to get to 40 points. And the game finished, and we're clapping the team off, and he taps me on the shoulder and he looks at me and went, "Don't forget, we're back to 0 points. We got another 40 to get." And it's just the reality of what it takes to win and the challenges of like doing that. So as soon as the Olympics is over, you've got to start to think about the plan for 27 and 28 and what it's going to take to win then. And the game is evolving, and on the women's game, it's such a fast pace. Athletically, technically, tactically, the professionalism in the game is getting better and better. And we need to shoot for the stars, and that's going to take a significant level of investment from JT, not just at senior level, but our youth program. And it's got to implement, as I mentioned, the whole game. It's got to, we've got to saturate the game with coach education and positivity around coaching and environments. And we've got so much to change and so much to do. So, it's not just the senior teams.
No one's listening to this, Matt. I know you know this. Your women's team just won gold. What's the goal for the men's team at the World Cup? What constitutes success? You can tell us, Matt. No one's listening.
I mean, we've we've stated, our internal, vision for both of our senior teams and also our senior extended national teams is to be in a position where we are podium challengers for every major tournament in the future. And we've got to go into, the reason why we brought Mauricio in, if we say to Mauricio, we're happy just to be in the group and, we're happy to have 2026 and enjoy the moment and, whatever will be, will be. He's not going to come. He's not going to want to come and, lead a program like that. He wants to come. He's a serial winner. He wants to come with a group of players who can challenge, for those podium finishes, So, he's talked quite a lot about belief, about, we need to instill belief into the players in the next 18 months to 2 years that we can improve results and we can win those games outside of the group stages that are going to enable us to progress further than we've gone before. So, that's the ambition, and also, we've got a duty and a responsibility to grow the game. And the best way to do that is by exciting the fans and doing well and having more games and filling stadiums. We've got to start to fill stadiums as well for our senior men's team, and we do that by A, winning, and B, playing an attractive style of play. And, we've got work to do on both of those things.
Can I ask you this? What you've achieved, honestly, it's a madness, Matt Crocker. US Soccer Twitter, let's say, may occasionally have doubted you, but you just went about your work. You ID'd and recruited two true gems, two pearls to ride with us in this is not hyperbolic, in an unprecedented fashion. A way, frankly, I hope there'll be no going back from. But let me ask you this, and I think you've hinted at some of this. What's your biggest worry now? Because great coaches are not the end of the game, are they? In many ways, they're just the end of the beginning.
Yeah, I think my biggest fear is that we just assume that we've put all our eggs in the basket of getting two senior head coaches that are used to winning and just assume that will organically happen without A, the level of investment to support those programs, B, the changes that need to happen in the youth landscape to produce a better level of youth player. C, the investment needed from US Soccer in coach education, where we've got this unique moment in time to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and go, we want to lead. We want to lead, but in a way that supports every coach, every club in the country in a way that doesn't just, we're telling you what to do. This is US Soccer being the service provider for you and your club to be as good as you can be, whatever that want to look like. But there's certain opportunities for us to positively influence children's experience in the game, that it's not just about winning, it's about development and opportunities and fun, and enjoyment. That's how the children need to start. And we can't just put all our eggs in one basket. We're the 5%. National teams are the 5%. We need to have a positive influence over the 95% of the rest of the ecosystem for us to get all the wheels turning in the right direction and for everybody to feel a part of hopefully successful senior teams of the future.
Southampton, you helped develop the SFC playbook, basically a universal approach so that players could move seamlessly through the youth team to the first team. At England, you were instrumental in developing the notion of the England DNA, really a philosophical approach across the entire programme. What is the American DNA and how can we develop it?
Yeah, so, we've been working on it for the last 12 months, so we're just in the process of internally introducing for all of our youth national teams the US way, which basically is our philosophy, our playing style, the culture, how we want our young players in our national environments to learn and develop, what skills and attributes they're going to need to be successful at senior level, player profiling. And, we are now just in a position where that will be launched to provide a much more of a consistent approach for all of our national age group head coaches, age and stage development, what they should be focusing on and shining the light brightest on when the players are in camp at various ages. And, we've done a really detailed piece of work around that alignment. And, the next step of that would be then to begin to share that with coach education, to begin to roll down the opportunity of going, okay, this is what the end looks like for our senior teams and our youth national teams. But what does that look like for the 6-year-old boy or girl that's just starting in grassroots? Like what skills should we be focusing on when we're coaching those children at those ages, and how does that ladder up and develop as they get older? So we want to be in a position to positively support the whole game, and we've taken a significant step in the last 12 months to doing that. Now we need to live, breathe, and feel that internally, where we're not just throwing a program out to say this is how to do it. People need to see it from our teams. Coaches and staff need to, externally see, now I begin to understand what they're doing at US Soccer. There's a level of consistency. They're the types of players that get selected to play for the national teams. They need to start to see that deep level of consistency through our teams before we start to then, begin to roll that out or offer that to be shared with the whole game.
Last question for you, Matt Crocker. Since you've joined US Soccer, you've seen fire, you've seen rain, you've been on a journey that began with some turbulence. But listening to you, it's as if you just drowned out the noise and climbed 2 massive mountains. What's the biggest lesson about life you've learned from this journey in the United States, Matt?
Wow, biggest lesson about life. Every day in everyone's job is, life's challenging, and, not everybody agrees with your decisions. Some people want you to move faster or slower than you're prepared to do at times. But, my biggest thing that I try and hold dear to is, trust the process. And, if you have a plan, the reason why you've got a plan is it's not when things are going great. It's easy to stick to the plan when things are going great. It's to be able to take a beat when things go wrong and go, okay, right, let's just look. What are we trying to achieve here? And what do we need to tweak or change to make this more effective? And the hardest thing that it's been is to, and I say this respectfully because it's not drown out the noise, because I am listening and you have to listen. But you've also got to take the emotions out of these decisions that you need to make sometimes. And I'm an emotional person, I'm a family guy, and it's been really challenging to go through these moments. But, what I understand is, this job with the US Soccer, there's a huge amount of, rightly so, expectations and pressure on me. And, the pressure is a privilege, by the way, and I'm not shying away from it. But it's, for me, it's about being able to look myself in the mirror every day and go, am I working off emotions, or am I sticking to a robust plan? And I just try and do that.
Matt, be like this, man, not like this, man. Purely working off emotions, Matt. Purely working off emotions. Matt, can I just say, again, my deep, heartfelt thanks to you. I'm amazed at what you've done. I also know you've done it under conditions of some sacrifice, working for our nation's football future. I know you're a family man. I know your family is actually back home in the United Kingdom, which is never, ever easy. And I just want to say to you, we are extremely grateful to you, to your family, to your adopted nation, to glory.
No, thank you. It's like you say, when you do these, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. As I mentioned, it's a huge project, and I'm really excited about what we could achieve here, but we're just scratching the surface. There's just still so much more to do. And, it has been challenging times when you're away from your family for long periods of time, and, but they're hugely supportive. And, I am hoping at some point when my son sorts his education out that they can come and join me over here. I think I mentioned I'm moving to Atlanta tomorrow, which is great because I'm getting we're away with the National Training Center. There's diggers in the ground. There's massive things happening. It's a really exciting time, and I'm hugely grateful and thankful for the opportunity. But I take it seriously, and I want to do the best job I can, and I really want to improve the game in this country, not just at senior level, but in all elements of the game.
Matt Crocker, courage. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.